Okay, good afternoon. My name is Bella,
I'm Lachey.
and together we are Vice Presidents of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion on the Graduate Student Government Association Board. In our role, we serve as the point people for celebrations, issues, and initiatives relating to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We also function as advocates for university-wide issues affecting graduate and professional students. Last month, we met to discuss Eid al-Adha with Dr. Vade and Reverend Crawford, and we're thrilled to be working with the Office of Spiritual and Religious Life again to continue with this religious holiday learning series. So today, we'd like to introduce Emory's new Jewish chaplain, Rabbi Jordan Braunig, as well as the Dean of Religious Life, the Reverend Greg McGonigle, and Rebecca Neumer, who is the president of the Jewish Emory graduate students and a Rollins MPH student. Today they'll be discussing their personal sentiments and experiences with the Jewish high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We encourage questions and we'll be having a Q&A session at the end. So please send any you have in the chat box. And without further ado, Rabbi Jordan and Dean McGonigle, please take it away.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Bella and Lachey, for organizing this Lunch and Learn today. We are, as I say, on behalf of the Office of Spiritual and Religious Life, we're just delighted about this Lunch and Learn series. So many in our community really want to understand these special moments and holidays that mean so much to our various communities on campus. And I think you're really leading us and helping us all to understand this better. And not just kind of in a textbook way, but really understanding, what these times and seasons mean to folks in our community, and maybe even some of the teachings and the lessons that they have for all of us, whether we're part of the tradition or not, also how we can be supportive of those who are celebrating. So just really grateful for the work that you're doing. I'll just say I'm Greg McGonigle. I'm the Dean for Religious Life at Emory, and my role is to support spiritual and philosophical life of all traditions, and even those who are beyond traditions and interested in spirituality. In my second year at Emory, I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister, and I work as part of a team of colleagues, a growing team of colleagues of different faiths who collectively support the religious, philosophical, and interfaith life at the university. And we are always looking for people to get involved. So I hope that you will get to know us if you haven't been able to do that. And maybe I'll just invite Rabbi Jordan and Rebecca to introduce themselves and just say how delighted we are to have you here, Jordan, in your second week, something like that.
Somewhere in there. I'm just really, really excited to be here. Excited to be at Emory. Excited to be a part of this Lunch and Learn series. Grateful to Bella and Lachey for helping to make this happen. Yeah, this is a significant time in the Jewish year, and one in which there's a lot of taking stock and recognizing where you are. And it's been interesting to be moving from Boston to Atlanta in this project. And I found the one corner of my house where it looks like things are under control, but I can assure you that, see over here the boxes, and I'm actually have my laptop up on boxes right now. So the process of actually picking up your stuff and figuring out what do I want to take with me into this next phase of my life? What do I want to take with me into this next year has actually been, Greg and I were talking about it this morning. There's a spiritual aspect of that. And so just delighted to be here and to chat about this time in the Jewish year. And so glad that Rebecca, who is the president of Jewish Emory graduate students, could be here to give a non-rabbinic perspective on what these holidays are like. And we're just, two Jews with two perspectives. And if you had 1,000 Jews, there would be 1,000 different perspectives or more. So just really glad that to be here.
Nice, welcome, and welcome Rebecca as well. So glad to have you part of the conversation here today too.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to talking with you all.
Great. Well, I guess let's launch in. So this is, as you've said, this is the season of the high holidays in the Jewish year, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Many people have heard those words, know those names, but may not really fully understand, where they come from, what's some of the history of these holidays. And so maybe we could start with you, Jordan, if you would give us just a little bit of a background, from a high level. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm not gonna. I'll give you the sort of on one foot answer to the question, which is that the Torah mentions that there will be these. It's actually in the beginning of the 7th month of the year. So it's not the first. It's not the first month, but Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the new year, is the beginning of the new year for the seasons, for the holiday cycle. And so, 7 is a significant number in Judaism. It's the number of completion. And so on some level, we've gotten to this point in the year. The fall is upon us, and we're supposed to stop and hear the blast of horns, to hear the sound of the shofar, and to reset, to recognize that like the day becomes, in rabbinic tradition, an anniversary of the creation of the world. And even for those of us who have an understanding of the world's creation as through evolution and as an ongoing process, there is a chance at this point in the year to stop and reflect on the miraculousness of the world around us and our gratitude for the beauty and the grandeur of the natural world, and to sort of say like, okay, this is Hayom Harat Haolam, this is the beginning, this is the day that the world was created, as a way of being like, oh, every day I should have this sense of real awe and wonder in interacting with the world around me. So that's the first of Tishrei. That's the first day of the new year. That's Rosh Hashanah. These first 2 days, for those who celebrate 2 days. Some people celebrate 1 day. It's just one of the varieties of practices that I was talking about. And then the 10th day, these 10 days in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are supposed to be a time of real reflection. The Aseret Yemei Tshuva, these 10 days of tshuva. Tshuva is a word that's sometimes translated as repentance, but I think the better translation is the days of return, days of sort of shifting the way you're going and returning to the path that you want to be on. So it's not exactly like New Year's Eve vibes when Rosh Hashanah comes. You don't, pop the champagne bottle and, kiss whoever's around you, but rather it's sort of like, okay, like I'm excited for this chance for renewal and revival, and I'm seeing it in the world around me, and I'm seeing it within myself. And now I have these 10 days to really like start on that path of change and return before Yom Kippur comes. And Yom Kippur is a day of like complete Sabbath, a Shabbat Shabbaton, and it's a day of refraining from eating and sort of taking responsibility for our transgressions, personal and societal, and recognizing our mortality, because we can't live in that sense of like existential angst all year round, or it's not good for us if we do that. Sometimes we're there more often than we'd like to be, but the Yom Kippur is a day where you're like supposed to really be in it, and it's a day where you just stop everything. You spend a lot of time in synagogue in a normal year, and you really like think about, okay, where do I want to be? So that's the sort of season of Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur in a nutshell, on one foot. And yeah, I mean, it's different for each of us. And there's some years where you can get really fully into it, and there are other years where it's like, oh yeah, I went with my family to synagogue and it was nice and we had good meals and there was a break fest. Like sometimes you have like the capacity for that like spiritual experience, and some years it's really just about being together with family and taking part in tradition. And we're all on a spectrum of how into the sort of themes of the holiday we can get each year.
Wow, thank you so much. So rich and such a helpful sort of entry point into this. I might ask you, Rebecca, how have you practiced in the past with you and your family and friends? Just kind of what do the holidays mean to you? Are there symbols? Are there just aspects of it that are really important in your experience?
So I grew up going to a Reform synagogue with my family in the Boston suburbs. And so the high holidays, we would get off of school in the town that I was from. So that was really great. And I'd go to synagogue with my immediate family. And there was a strong community there. So, it felt like a day off from kind of normal life. And then there was always like a lot of good food. I mean, on Yom Kippur it would be break fast, but Rosh Hashanah, my mom would cook or my grandma or something like that. And we would get together with some cousins after services, usually maybe for dinner, for break fast on Yom Kippur. But I think it just symbolized like a time with family, time to take a break, joy, and even in the community, friends who are Jewish and things like that.
That's great. And I might just ask, because it's lunchtime and it's a lunch and learn, are there particular foods that you just really loved or look forward to on the holiday, or special foods for the holidays?
I really like kugel, which, if you haven't had it, is usually made with noodles. And my grandma's recipe, which, like a lot of people in my family now make, it's like a sweet kugel. So it has like cottage cheese or ricotta cheese and like raisins, cinnamon, sugar. So it's kind of sweet. I really like that. And then I mean, chicken's usually good if you like chicken. And on break fast for Yom Kippur is very, like, at least in a lot of families, like having a big bagel spread is delicious.
Making me hungrier. Thank you. I might ask you, Jordan, so food and like practices and rituals are so important to so many holidays. Like, are there like certain practices of these holidays that really like stick out to you? Maybe I'll ask you both that, but starting with you, Jordan, is there moments or symbols?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, just to hold up something Rebecca said, just like a day that was not a normal day. Like I think that's sort of the essence of what holidays should feel like. It's like we have this normal routine that we're on. We can sometimes sort of flip on autopilot and go from home to work to school to that sort of thing. And to have these days that are, oh, I'm not switching on the autopilot, but rather I'm living in a different type of time. The sense of like cousins are together and family is together, and we're all cooking recipes from our grandparents. I mean, Rebecca's talking about some of these like classic Ashkenazi Eastern European Rosh Hashanah dishes. In the Sephardi world and in the Mizrahi world, there are like different things. Some people will have black-eyed peas on New Year because it's about plenty and it's about abundance. But throughout the Jewish world, there's this idea of eating simanim, these like symbol foods during the holidays. So you ask, like, what's a quintessential taste of Rosh Hashanah? It's like, oh, apples and honey. Like, I know that JAGS, the Jewish Immigrant Graduate Students, are having an event tonight, and they're like, bring your own apples and honey, because it's an evocative taste. An apple is so sweet to begin with, but then to like dip it into honey it's meant to symbolize the sweetness of the year to come. And I'm like such a baby about it. Sometimes my kids will be like, oh, we want to have apples and honey. And I'm like, no, you can't have apples and honey, because that's like a taste that I want you to associate with this like one time in the year. And then of course they'll have it either way. So it doesn't, what I say doesn't really matter. But for me, I really want to have that on Rosh Hashanah, so that, like taste and smell memories, these olfactory memory senses are so strong, and it goes back as like far as I can remember in my life, that this is the taste of that holiday for me.
Mm. Mm.
But you know, in terms of religious practice, the sound of the shofar, it's like, you know,
Which is a ram's horn. Yeah.
it's a ram's horn. I'm such a dope. I have one upstairs. It's actually from the beginning of the month of Elul, which is the month that precedes Rosh Hashanah. There's a tradition of blasting the shofar on a daily basis in the morning, and then on Rosh Hashanah there are just, you know, all of these blasts. But you know, often a rabbi, you know, she'll say to her congregation, or he'll say to his congregation, like, close your eyes and listen to this sound, like let it seep in. And it's just this call that feels like it harkens back to a time, you know, a time before our time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ancient practice.
Yeah, an ancient practice for sure.
How about you, Rebecca? Is there, either on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, is there like a moment or something religiously that happens that sort of sticks out in your mind? I've heard of the Book of Life. You know, there are different aspects to it.
Well, just going off of the shofar topic, I think that definitely is special for a lot of people, including myself. I think it's very unique. And growing up, like the synagogue I went to is very large, so they'd have like a children's service run by like a Jewish educator, just probably more digestible for kids, I guess. But then there'd always be like this moment of pause. And then I was part of that, I think. I have big memories, but then as an adult, I would see it, and like the kids would all like little kids would come into the regular service, and they'd come with their parents to like watch the shofar blow in front of the whole. So it's definitely like a moment that is important to, I think I would say, almost everyone at some level, like all ages, kind of like this is an important moment in the high holidays. But outside of that, yeah, I think, I mean, when I fast, I usually would fast. And I think that just is a whole day to offer you a lot of time to think, which doesn't happen very often for most people. And Rabbi Jordan, I might need your guidance on this one, but Tashlich, I've always really enjoyed, and I don't think I could probably give a full description of like the history of it, but it's usually done out, you can describe it more, but it's usually done outside the body of water where you like throw bread or lint or something into the water, and I've always really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, because I swear I'd meant to mention Tashlich. It's this moment in the days in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Often people will do it, in the Rosh Hashanah afternoon even, and they'll walk to a river or to a lake. I know that, some students are going to like lull water. I'm trying to learn the terminology here a little bit. And it's a sort of an act of letting go, of taking an acorn or a little piece of bread or a piece of lint from your pocket, like something, and just sort of casting it off and saying, okay, this is something from the past year that I need to let go of. An event where I will, this year it's like take all of 2020. I'd be like, peace, it was nice. I don't want to see you again. But in all honesty, it's a ritual that I think is powerful, partly because it happens in the natural world, and it happens close to water, which is a powerful symbol in and of itself. But we all have like hard events from a year, things that we said to someone that we're like, oh, I wish I could get that back, and I've apologized, and I'm hoping that there's repair there, but I want to let it go a little bit. And sometimes that act is just a way of being like, okay, now I feel, ritual has that power to sometimes help us experience transformation. Yeah. And then in terms of fasting on Yom Kippur, I hear people who really go both ways, in terms of like this is supposed to have me more focused on my prayer and on my soul searching, but it like gets in my, I have tons of college students where like it actually gets in my way, and all I'm thinking about is food. And sometimes I'll say to someone, okay, so like see what it feels like to have a little like bite of food in the middle of the day, and are you able to enjoy the holiday more because you've had a sip of water? It's funny, like I've turned into like a decent faster, but I mean the other thing to say about fasting is that for some people food restriction is like not a good idea. They have a history around it, and so like just putting out there, like if that's part of your story, to know that like you don't have to fast on Yom Kippur, that there are exceptions made for people who are pregnant, for people who have medical histories, for people who need to take medication. So just holding that out there. But yeah, like I think between 18 and 22, when I was in college, fasting was its hardest. That's like the hungriest point of my life, in some ways. So yeah, but Yom Kippur has this aspect of, and this is kind of an intense thing, but it's like it's a rehearsal of death, and that's some of the language that gets used. That some people will wear white, which is looks like sort of the same thing you wear in your burial shrouds, and you don't feed yourself, and you don't have sex, and you don't bathe yourself, and you like it's this moment of being like, oh yeah, I'm in a body, and I'm and that's part of my life, but for this day I'm sort of like ignoring that aspect. And once we've like gone through this day of experiencing that, then like the idea is to like return to life in its like fullness, and to like feast that evening, and to eat bagels, and to have some wine, and to really like to enjoy the fact that we're alive, which in this moment, in this year, all of the stuff around, there's a prayer called the Untitled Chapter, which is about who will live and who will die. And the intensity of that in this COVID moment is palpable. And for people in synagogues to say like, to look and say like, oh, this person isn't here anymore, and to hear this prayer, and to grapple with the fact that we're all living for a short time is it's meant to be part of the holiday, but in this year I think it's going to have extra weight and significance.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking, Rebecca, as you think about your practice this year, or the community that you're part of here at Emory, we're facing multiple pandemics, right? We're facing a pandemic of COVID-19, racist violence in this country, a lot of tension, a lot of insecurity that many people are feeling. How is that coming into how you're thinking about the holidays this year? I mean, I expect that logistically it's sort of different from how it's been in the past, but even in terms of prayers, it's a time of deep reflection, obviously, and sort of looking ahead to the future also. Is that part of how you're thinking about the holidays this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different because the sense of community is different, being, things are virtual. So, and then in terms of sort of thinking about where we all are, where I am, like I feel, fortunate to have like, a place to live and, school and all these things. But, it definitely reflecting on the past 6 months, there's definitely lots to reflect on with everything that the world in this country has gone through, and how I can kind of be a better person, and this country can improve collectively with COVID, and improve, like help people's health outcomes and everything like that. So yeah, it's different. I'm thankful that there are virtual services happening, so I can partake in those, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that one thing that is on my mind this year is the fact that the language of the like vidui, these like alchetz, these like confessional group, for the sin we've committed by doing this and by doing this, all of it's in the first person plural every year. It's like, we have lied, we have misled, we have robbed, we have murdered. And I've had students before say, oh, it's like feels weird to like say like we've done these acts and some of them feel horrible. But I think in this year to be like, how are we all responsible for the world that we live in? How are we complicit in systemic racism in this country, in this rise of nativism and xenophobia and anti-Semitism as well? Like, how do we use that first person plural as a way of saying like, there are ways in which we have participated in this knowingly or unknowingly, and like we're standing together and we're saying it out loud, and there are, and we're asking for forgiveness, and we're asking to change, and we're like expressing this desire to do better. And I feel like it's a really powerful moment to jump into that first person plural, to use the we and our transgressions, and it's not about this person who I'm thinking of, or that person, but it's about all of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for sharing a little bit. I think there's the opportunity for people to ask a question or make a comment in the chat that maybe Lachey and Bella are going to coordinate as they close us out. But I just wanted to say, I mean, yeah, so many traditions do have this idea of that we are all connected, as you've said, both of you, I think, in different ways. And I think it's a time to really reaffirm that. I think, the kinds of challenges that we're facing as a society, certainly remind us of that if we didn't know it, weren't thinking of it before. And it just sounds like these holidays provide some beautiful opportunities for reflection and thinking about, what that might be. And so thank you for being willing to share a little bit about their meanings with us. And
we're aware of the fact that Rebecca might need to run to a class. So
we do have a class coming up.
Happy to field any questions or finish this off for us.
Fantastic. I might just mention there are many ways to celebrate the holidays on campus that are affiliated Jewish communities are leading. We mentioned a few, but you can find out more too through the Office of Spiritual and Religious Life e-newsletter, or I think probably feel free to be in touch with Rabbi Jordan if that's all right too. So, thanks.
Great. Thank you both so much. I think, since we're at time and folks have other commitments, we'll go ahead and wrap up. But, on behalf of Bella, myself, and all of GSGA, we just want to say again, we really appreciate both of you, Rebecca and Rabbi Jordan, being here to share your unique perspectives. And thanks to you, Dean McGonigle, for facilitating that conversation. Because, even as we dive into particular holidays, it's so important to keep in mind that there's still so much diversity within faith. So thank you both for being here and showing us just a piece of the rich diversity within the Jewish faith. As we move forward, to Dean McGonigle's point, there are a couple of announcements about things coming up on campus. Someone pointed out in the chat, thank you so much to that person, that Hillel is hosting an outdoor shofar and tashlik service Sunday at 1 p.m. So all are welcome to that. And Rebecca also had an announcement that we wanted to give her the floor to share. And right now I'm going to enter the Zoom info for her announcement in the chat.
Thank you so much. So yeah, you can use that Zoom link tonight at 8 p.m. We have Professor Crane, he works with the Department of Ethics, the medical school, multiple places within Emory, and he will be speaking about Jewish perspectives on reparations and kind of a reflection on this year and the year to come and everything like that. And as we said, we welcome you to bring apples and honey to the Zoom link, and we'll have a discussion. Thank you.
Amazing.
Wonderful, thank you. So just a closing statement to wrap up. Every month, the Graduate Student Government Association, in partnership with the Office of Spiritual and Religious Life, will be hosting a religious holiday lunch and learn. So stay tuned for what's to come in October, either through religiouslife.emory.edu or through GSGA's communication. Thank y'all so much for joining us.
Thanks, Lachey and
Thank
Bella,
you.
everyone. Rebecca, Jordan.